Hi, welcome to another 3 True Scary Stories from Reddit. Before we begin, I'd like to say that the third story is not from Reddit Let's Not Meet. It's from the Reddit category No Sleep. Also, I would like to apologize in advance for any mistakes I might make along this video. It seems that I have come down with tonsillitis, so the next few videos might be narrated by my girlfriend, as talking and everything else has become more difficult and painful. But with that being said, let's begin. Number 1. In 2008, I worked at a retail clothing store with my girlfriend Chelsea. We were both 18 years old, and we tried to work as many shifts together as possible to maximize our time together because she was still in school. My grandfather had recently purchased a Dodge Sprinter van, linked to the example photo in the description below, for his business, and my car was being serviced overnight, so I got to drive the van. Chelsea and I loved the nights we got to take the van because it usually had the back seats installed, and the tinted windows meant we can have some privacy, which is great for teens who still live at home. That night, we only had one row of seats in the back, and it was the row just behind the driver and passenger. Chelsea and I parked near each other like we always did, and worked our evening shifts closing the store with a few of our coworkers. We all leave together, and I helped the manager lock up, because the glass doors need to be aligned properly for the lock to engage. It's early March in Pennsylvania, and it's still very cold outside, so Chelsea usually starts her car to warm it up, and then sits with me as my car warms up. When I get to the vehicles, her car is idling, and she's already in the van. I don't even realize that I still have the keys, and I never unlocked the door. She sits with me, chatting for a while, and then she sits on my lap and we kiss in the front seats. Then we decide it's too late and too cold to have a little fun in the back. Every night we drive home separately from work while talking on the phone. She usually gets home first, and I stay on the line while she walks up her long driveway in the dark. That night I made it home first for some reason, and I knew I had a lot of stuff to carry in, so when I'm close to home, I tell her I'll call her in a little bit. She asked me to stay on the line because she's almost home and doesn't like walking past the dark bushes next to her driveway. I stay on the phone and fumble with all of my things I'm carrying out of the van. I know I locked and armed the van because as I was using the key fob to lock the vehicle, I dropped a few things while struggling to keep the phone to my ear. The motion lights have illuminated the whole area, so I'm able to see everything that I dropped. We both make it inside safely, and we also decide not to stay on the phone because she had school in the morning. I begin to doze off almost immediately in my bedroom. I live with my grandparents who built a house to accommodate my grandfather's aging parents suffering from Alzheimer's, my great-grandparents, so they didn't have to go in a home. The driveway runs parallel to a daylight basement that has 2 garage doors, an entrance door, and the French doors to my bedroom. I'm falling asleep as all the motion lights finally turn off, and now my room is completely dark. It wasn't 20 minutes later when I'm jarred awake by the alarm sirens of the van. All of the motion lights are on, and the flashing lights of the van alarm are filling my room. I left the key fob upstairs in the main part of the house, so I run upstairs to silence the alarm. In the kitchen, as I'm grabbing the keys, my grandfather in his boxers, my great-grandmother in her nightgown, and I in my boxer briefs, all meet in the dark. My grandfather grunts as he sees me grabbing the fob, but what my granny said sent shivers down my spine. "What in the Sam Hill are you doing running around outside at this time of night, darling?" I wasn't outside. I explained that I was sleeping, and she insisted that I was outside making the van alarm. My great-grandparents' bedroom sits above the garage doors, looking down over the driveway and the van. I'm assuming she's confused. She has Alzheimer's after all. The goosebumps from her exclamation prompted me to grab a knife from the butcher block anyway. And my grandfather followed with the baseball bat. We both walk outside warily, in our boxers, in the cold but highly illuminated and loud dead of the night. The van is still going crazy. The interior lights are all flashing, and I remember that specifically because I never seen a car alarm do that. We silence the alarm and start looking around. My grandfather says he thinks a deer may have ran out of the woods in the dark and hit the van. I don't say anything as we investigate. When I reach the back of the van, I notice that the door is wide open. That explains the alarm. The van has a feature that if the vehicle alarm is armed and the door is open somehow from the inside or outside, it alarms. But how? I locked it and armed it, hence the blaring alarm. That's when I realized the door was open from the inside. My blood ran cold. The door is open, so the inside's lights are still on. I see the empty space behind the row of seats, and there are wadded up napkins and a chip bag. They weren't ours. Someone was in the van with me the entire time. I must have left the van unlocked by mistake when I went into work, and that's how Chelsea was able to get in the van without the keys at the end of the night. Was it a homeless person escaping the cold? Or someone with more sinister intents? What if I had gotten off the phone like I wanted to? If they had ill intent, the fact that I was on the phone might have saved my life, because Chelsea would have raised hell if she'd heard me being attacked. I get chills every time I think about it. We didn't call the police because my grandfather was skeptical of my conclusion, but my gut tells me that I didn't drive home alone that night. Person in the back of my van? Let's not meet. Number 2. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. Throwaway account because story contains some things I'd rather not have some people know about me. This happened about 3 years ago, when I was still an undergrad. I'm a very shy girl, and not a lot of guys hit on me. I was in an on-again, off-again relationship with my now-living boyfriend when it happened. I never told him. I was taking an econ class. I had a crush on the professor, but he moved to another university last minute. There was this guy, we'll call him Frank, who always flirted with the girls in class, including me. Silly, shy me was flattered and flirted back to the best of my ability. We chatted before and after class sometimes, and once met up with a group of other people before a test study. I think this is when it happened. As a quick disclaimer, I used to do some kinky stuff with my boyfriend. We've cooled down, but whatever you can think of, I probably did and had pictures of on my phone. I know this was a stupid thing to do, but Frank asked for my phone so he can show me a funny video. I gave it to him and continued talking to another classmate. Very soon after that, I started getting weird texts from a number I didn't know. It started off innocent enough. Things like, "I know you, but you don't really know me. You're so beautiful. We should hang out." I mostly ignored these texts because they weren't threatening or anything. This continued for a few weeks. Just a few texts per week. I told the person to leave me alone, that I wasn't interested. How did he or she get my number, etc. One night, the text got really aggressive. I was at a party drinking a little, and the person started sending me texts like, "I'm really interested in BDSM. Will you show me the ropes?" Smiley face. And things like that. When I said no, and to please stop texting me, the person got really aggressive, sending things like, "Why won't you fuck me, you nasty slut?" I know the disgusting things you do in your spare time. I should have said something to someone, but I was so scared. How could anyone possibly know that about me? My boyfriend and I are very, very discreet. I started to panic and cry in front of all these people and had a friend walk me home. Finally, after about 3 hours of aggressive text from this person, I told him I don't care what anyone thinks of me. I was going to report him to the police. That shut him up. But not before one final reply. Watch your back, whore. I'll find a way into your filthy BDSM world one way or another. Sometime later, I put 2 and 2 together. Frank from class must have seen the pics on my phone and gotten my number. He never acted weird, so I never suspected him. He was as friendly as ever. Little did I know, he was probably getting his rocks off to my very private pictures. And yes, I'm not very careful who I give my phone to and delete all my pictures I don't want anyone else to see. So Frank/creepy stalker text guy, let's not meet again. Number 3. My 7-year-old daughter, Emily, hasn't spoken to me in years. She hasn't even made eye contact with me. She won't eat, she only sleeps when I make her, and she absolutely refuses to go to school. It hurts not knowing what's wrong. I think I did something to upset her, but she never told me what. She still won't tell me, no matter how often I ask. I play through the days before she closed herself off, but I can't find a single hint. Well, apart from the doll. She loved that doll so much. I was on vacation with my then boyfriend, and I'd left her with her grandpa, as she was too young to be able to sit still and stay quiet on a plane. It was the last day of our week-long stay in Taiwan, and we agreed that we needed to find some sort of gift for my daughter, so that she could share the experience in her own way. We were walking the streets near the hostel we were staying at when we noticed a cute little shop. It was sort of design-your-own-doll type of place. We walked in, and I immediately noticed a bear doll which looked almost identical to my daughter, only a little smaller. I knew I just had to get it for her. I went through the process of picking out hair, eyes, and clothes for the doll, and the finished product looked just like her. I knew she was going to love it. We paid for the doll, packed up, and went home. When we got home, I called my father to bring her to the apartment and stay for dinner. After we all finished eating, my father and boyfriend left Emily and me to catch up. She sat with me while I unpacked, until I told her I had a surprise for her and that she needed to go wait in the living room. She excitedly obliged, practically sprinting out of the room. I returned to her, doll in hand. I could tell that she fell in love with the doll the moment she saw it. It was even more obvious when she squealed, "Mommy, it looks just like me!" I handed her the doll and let her play with it for an hour or so before I put her, and Emily too, as she named her doll, to bed. Over the next few weeks, she and her doll got closer than ever. Emily too practically became her sister. The doll even helped her cope with my boyfriend and my breakup. That's a whole different story though. The doll soon became her life. She slowly drifted away from me, politely declining any time I asked her if she wanted to go out for dinner or to see a friend, because Emily too is very, very shy. Weeks went by. I would go to work almost every day, leaving her with my dad. When I got home, he would give me the same report. Emily barely spoke to me today, but she seems happy enough with talking to her doll. I was starting to get worried though. She was moving further and further into her shell, and I thought the relationship she had with that doll was becoming rather unhealthy. She only further proved my point when she began speaking for her doll. She would have two-sided conversations with it in her room by making her voice slightly higher whenever she was pretending to be the doll. The doll was her darker half. Emily would joke and laugh, whereas the doll would insult her and those around her, often using vulgar language to do so. Anytime I told Emily to stop, she would say, "It's not me, I swear. Emily too is just in a bad mood." Emily would come to me with scratches, scrapes, and bruises, claiming Emily too had hurt her. This doll was harming my daughter mentally and physically. I had to get rid of it. Finally, I snapped. Emily came to me, bleeding profusely from her arm. She told me Emily too had cut her. She carried Emily with her to the couch, sitting beside her while I cleaned her up. Emily too then called me a disgusting name and told me to leave the room before she hurt me as well, as Emily was her responsibility. Before Emily had time to react, I grabbed Emily too by the ankles and slammed her light body into the wall. I could hear Emily screaming, begging me to stop, but the blood pounding in my ears helped me to ignore it. I continued slamming Emily too into the floor and wall until I began tearing her hair out. At some point in my rage, Emily gave up and became silent. Adrenaline still pumping, I carried the doll outside and dropped her into the community dumpster. When I got back into the apartment, I silently carried Emily to her bed and tucked her in. I can understand her being sad over a doll, but it's been years. Shouldn't she have forgiven me by now? Thanks for listening to another 3 True Scary Stories from Reddit. Remember, if you like this video, leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more future content. Until then, have a great night everybody, and stay safe.